Major winter storm that we have been seeing over the past couple of days is finally beginning to exit the United States, but it's still going to bring some heavy snow, some ice, and some significant flash flooding here. And we're going to be going over the areas that have been hardest hit by the flash flooding over the past 2 weeks. And we're going to look ahead at the polar vortex because we're going to see a lot of cold air moving into the U.S., the coldest air of the winter season for us folks in the north central U.S., and we're going to look ahead even to the last week of February. So a lot to look at here in the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, follow along with all my detailed, accurate weather breakdowns. I'm only 367 subscribers away from 126,000. You guys can help me get there by simply subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video, especially if you do find it informative, give it a thumbs up, and share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I definitely appreciate it. So let's get in and talk about our temperatures because cold air is starting to unleash across the central United States and the northern United States. Look at all these purples and pinks here. These are temperature anomalies, 25 to even 35 degrees below normal here. And we look at our temperatures to start across the heartland this morning, and it was cold up here into the Dakotas, Minnesota, and northern Nebraska. And while it's not unheard of to see temperatures this time of year up here like this, the prolonged nature of the cold is going to be significant. I mean, we're talking 35 degrees below zero wind chills, even up here into North Dakota. So it's pretty cold. Make sure to bundle up in layers as you head outdoors this morning. Now, as we go into the afternoon, we're going to be warming up, but not much. We're still seeing some double-digit below zero temperatures up here into North Dakota, and our wind chills will remain around 35 degrees below zero up here, especially northern North Dakota this afternoon. How about the western U.S.? Yes, it was cold up here into Montana, parts of Wyoming and Idaho, where we typically and traditionally see the cold air just because of the topography of the Rocky Mountains. But notice our wind chills even up here into northeastern Montana around 35 to even 40 degrees below zero this morning. And as we go into the afternoon, our wind chill values will still remain well below zero up here, especially into northeast Montana, 15 to as much as 25 degrees below zero up here this afternoon. Now finally, the east, the coldest areas, as you expect with the heavier snowpack on the ground in northern Maine. That's where we saw temperatures a few degrees below zero this morning. Wind chill values around 10 degrees below zero. And notice in the southeast, we saw temperatures this morning, and the warm sector of our storm from the eastern Carolinas, coastal Georgia, and into Florida, starting off around 70 degrees. Now, as we go into the afternoon, we may actually fall off a few degrees, especially for the Carolinas, Georgia, and North Florida. But down here in Miami, yeah, we could be seeing highs near 90 degrees Fahrenheit this afternoon. Now, over the past 2 weeks, we have seen a lot of moisture here. We know we have had atmospheric rivers across California and across the West Coast in general. A lot of precipitation out here, but an area that's been really hard hit by the moisture is the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the Ohio River Valley here, Kentucky, West Virginia, Tennessee there in particular, the deep south all the way back into East Texas. Look at all the reds here, maroon reds, even those grays starting to show up. Those are rainfall amounts over a 2-week period, over 6 inches in many areas, and this doesn't even take into account the rainfall we saw last night. I know there was a lot of devastating flooding here in parts of Kentucky into Tennessee and Arkansas, and my heart goes out to everybody that is affected by this storm in any way by the flooding. We missed out on the moisture across the parts of the plains in the upper Midwest here recently. Hopefully we can get some moisture up there where we truly do need it because drought continues to expand in those areas. Now, as we go through the rest of this afternoon, we're going to see some colder air coming in on the backside of this storm. Could be giving us some snow in eastern Ohio into West Virginia and western Pennsylvania. So Pittsburgh this afternoon could get some snow for a couple of hours, and then very heavy snow from northern Maine all the way through northern New Hampshire, Vermont, upstate New York. Very heavy snow rates, 1 to 2 inches per hour, and then we have an ice threat across coastal Maine and southern Maine there into southern New Hampshire, and then more liquid precipitation from Boston down toward New York City. Eventually, as the cold air wraps in, we may have a few snow flurries and snow showers in places like Boston, Hartford, Providence, back there to New York City and Long Island. But other than that, we're not really seeing any big accumulation. And by the time we get to Monday morning, a lot of that storm is gone. Maybe a little bit of lake effect snow, but most of that storm is gone by Monday morning. Here's the additional moisture we're seeing as far as liquid precipitation here, or liquid precipitation equivalent. You You can see across coastal New England, we're going to see anywhere from a ½ inch to an inch of rain from Boston down toward New York City, and then a little bit lighter amounts further to the south towards the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. Looking to the north with the snow, heaviest snow up here into upstate New York, closer to the Canadian border, far northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and then northern Maine up toward Caribou. Could be seeing up to 20 inches of snow as we go through your Monday morning. So we're going to be shoveling out of the heavy snow up here as we go into the new work week. Lake effect snow could give us a few inches around Michigan, parts of northern Indiana, northern Ohio, and near Lake Erie there. So Erie, Pennsylvania, Buffalo, New York, Watertown, New York. Traditional areas that see lake effect snow bands could see that as we go into early next week. Now let's talk about the polar vortex. It is right in our backyard as we go into Monday, February 17th, which is tomorrow. And this is going to promise some very cold air and likely the coldest air of the winter season across the central and the eastern U.S. And look as the polar vortex just continues to remain parked in southeastern Canada Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and finally starting to pull a little bit further north on Friday, but it's still close enough to where we get some cross-polar flow, especially across the Great Lakes region and the Northeast. So here are our 5-day temperature averages here, and you can see these are your anomalies, and we could see temperature anomalies anywhere from 20 to as much as 40 degrees below normal here across the heartland, really the ag belt here in the middle of the country. This is from Monday, February 17th through Friday, February 21st here. And let's just look here at how strong our high pressure is. We got a 1046 high in the province of Saskatchewan here on Monday. Watch as it deepens even further as we go into Tuesday. This is a 1053 high. This is a true Arctic high pressure system. 1046 high down here into Omaha, 1034 high over there into Ohio. So this really ushering in some cold air. And then look as we go into Wednesday, we got a 1050 high pretty much there in the Dakotas. So the cold air is here to stay for the week, and it's going to be dangerously cold if you don't have heating, if you don't have multiple layers of winter jackets on, gloves, and covering that exposed skin. Frostbite can set in less than 20 minutes in a lot of these temperatures and wind chills. Just simply looking Monday morning, if you're heading out to school, if you do have school, if you have work, we're going to have temperatures anywhere from 15 to as much as 35 degrees below zero from Wisconsin, Minnesota into the Dakotas, and Montana. And our wind chills up here could be approaching 60 degrees below zero. Yes, that's not a typo. 60 degrees below zero at times, especially in northeast Montana, North Dakota, and northwest Minnesota. Some serious stuff here. We do have cold weather warnings actually in effect for these areas. As we go into Tuesday morning, fast forward to that, becomes a little bit more widespread with the 15 degrees below zero wind chills and temperatures all the way across the northern U.S. there on Tuesday. And then as we go into Wednesday morning, look at our wind chills going all the way down to North Texas below zero, widespread 20 to 40 below across the north there. And that just continues even into Thursday and into Friday here. It starts to moderate a little bit, but we're still seeing those 20 below zero wind chills, especially for the upper Midwest and areas with snowpack. Now also, we are going to be tracking a storm system here underneath that Arctic high. We're going to see a low pressure develop down near Colorado, New Mexico, and the Texas Panhandle on Monday. That will move south along the Gulf Coast and then lift up on the eastern side of our Arctic high over here. How far west will it go? With such a strong Arctic high, I'm inclined to say that this is going to be a little bit further off the coast, which could give us the chance of a nor'easter as we go into later next week. Now, while that's not set in stone quite yet, it does look like a nice pattern for the potential of a nor'easter. So here we go. Monday, we got some snow here and some tight isobars, so some wind-driven snow from Montana down into Wyoming there and into Nebraska. Then as we go into Tuesday, heavy snows breaking out in Kansas, northern Oklahoma, and into Missouri there. Ice threat, southern Oklahoma into western and southwestern Arkansas. Some of that ice threat could actually get more into northern Texas and northern Louisiana too, because the cold air might come in faster than this model does show. Again, this is an ensemble average. And then looking over here to the Ohio-Tennessee Valley and into the Mid-Atlantic, some snow there, and then an ice threat perhaps for the Carolinas into Tennessee and northern Georgia. Then as we go into Thursday, the 20th, 21st, Thursday and Friday, okay, of February, we could be seeing some heavy snow. Is this offshore or is it onshore of the I-95 corridor from New York City to Boston? That is the big million-dollar question at this point. And right now the ensemble has the heaviest mainly offshore, but if this tracks just 50 to 100 miles northwest, which is very possible, we're still several days out here, this could be a big nor'easter with several inches of snow, possibly feet of snow, for parts of the Northeast and the coastal areas as well before that moves out later here next weekend. Looking here at the ensemble average of snow, looking at a decent average here, 6 to 10 inches across southeastern portions of Kansas, downstate Missouri, northeastern Oklahoma, and far northern Arkansas. A few inches here for Kentucky, areas that have seen flooding. Unfortunately, yes, getting more moisture here. And then we're starting to see more heavy snowfall picking up for the Delmarva. And how far offshore? Again, that's the million-dollar question. Is it off Cape Cod and Long Island, or is it on Boston, New York City, Hartford, those areas? They could get anywhere from nothing to potentially a foot or so of snow. So this is the big question here. How suppressed will this storm be, or how amplified will the storm be? We'll be answering that question as we get closer. Now, as we go into the following week, Monday, February 24th, the polar vortex is retreating back to its home, right? Going back to the Arctic. And we're starting to see some milder temperatures here where we live in the troposphere down here into portions of the United States. And that'll just continue as we go into later next week as the polar vortex just retreats to the north. So that promises some warmer air. So if you're not a fan of the cold, not a fan of the snow, well, we're going to start to see more mild Pacific air moving in first across the west and then progressing from west to east into the central U.S. and then eventually the eastern U.S. We might have to wait till early March for that as we're still trending colder over here across the eastern seaboard through that March 1st time frame. But it's going to be a drier trend. We're going to see a little bit of a period of a lull in our storm activity. So the caboose is coming, and then eventually we're going to see some drier weather, and we really truly need it from Kentucky down into Tennessee, Arkansas, the deep south. Just been inundated by some heavy rain. It'll be nice to dry out going into the late portion of February. Well, we'll be tracking these winter storms, the next couple of them that are pushing across the United States. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm only 367 subscribers away from hitting 126,000. You can help me get there simply by subscribing. Like the video, especially if you didn't find it informative, give it a thumbs up. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media. I'll have a video for you again this evening, so be looking out for that as well with an update on this winter storm coming later in the week and possibly a nor'easter as we go into later next week. Updates on that. Thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend out there.